Cooper, you have literally walked through the door, back from Melbourne again.
Melburnian, yes, I have.
So you interviewed Katy Perry while you were down there?
Did. Shot a little video with her, Katy 180. Lovely. I tell you what, though. It's a smooth operation they've got going for her down there. Like, it was like rock up, right? You have like, she did the interview with Jackie O. Before Jackie O, she was in there with Fev, Brendan Favola. You only get like, everybody's only got a certain amount of allocated time. So it was like in, out. I had 5 minutes. It was like, righto, straight in. As soon as it hits like 4 minutes 30, you just see them going, wrap up.
Yeah.
But she was lovely. Yeah. She was awesome, mate.
How did she resist your charms, your charisma, machismo?
I don't know. I actually don't know how she did. I don't know how she was feeling internally. I was pretty relaxed.
Because Brendan Favola went on radio, right? I was told by someone in Melbourne, and they asked him about the interview, and he said the best entertainment was watching Cooper Johns. He was the world's most hungover man, sculling Red Bulls.
Yeah, it was a little bit out. I was out in the... Because I got there about an hour early and I was so tired and I was just going, oh no. And Fev instantly beelined it for me and was like into me, just like jabbing me in the stomach. Come on, man, let's go. I was like, no. And then as he came out, he was like, oh, mate, she's in a bad mood. He made me so worried. He was like, mate, you're going to have to lift your energy up. She's in a pretty bad mood today. But I walked in there. She was awesome. She was very, very fun.
Nice.
Yeah, very upbeat kind of personality. Doesn't take her till... She actually told me to piss off at one stage because I was like... This is off camera at the end. She was like, oh, yeah, so do you like the AFL? And one of the girls at the back go, nah, he's NRL, not AFL. And I go, oh, yeah. And I go, yeah, I'm NRL. I don't really watch this game. And she was like, oh, well, piss off then. So she was very good sport.
How was the performance? I didn't get to see her
very
performance.
Good.
Was it good?
Very good. Tina Arena came out with her.
I like Tina Arena.
You have always loved Tina Arena. You love her.
She's a talent. She's a talent.
She'll go somewhere, mate, one
day. Hey, Coop, before we move on to talk about the games, Kevy Walters was sacked Thursday night. It came as a real shock to everybody. We knew he was under pressure, but they've certainly swung the axe fairly swift. Now, Billy Walters, of course, is on a part of our family. You know? Have you spoken to Billy? How's Billy going?
I just had a couple of messages with him. He's obviously he's disappointed. He's always been had Kevy's back during the sort of tough times up and down when the media started to slam him. So he's a bit disappointed with how I think it's been handled and whatnot. But I mean, you know, I think Billy's he's a team first dude anyway. He's not going to let him. One thing is good things about Bill is he's not going to let it affect his relationship with the Broncos. He's not going to let it. You know, he's not going to be out there trying to get out of the club or anything. He's Bronco through and through. He always wanted to play for the Broncos growing up. So he's obviously disappointed for his old man, and you know, he's got that love for him. But I know whoever's going to be the next coach, Billy will have a good relationship with him.
It's very funny. I've got a theory on the timing of the announcement. It was announced on the Thursday night.
Yeah,
almost as Braith and Astor on 360 went sayonara, good night. Bang, it was almost released after then. And it was released right, like, basically just before the big weekend of Grand Final qualifiers. So two things. They knew that if it had gone on 360 at 7:15 and Gordy's there, he just would have went nuclear. So they've released it, in my opinion, like literally a minute after the NRL 360 had ended.
Yeah.
So by the time it comes around Monday again, some heat would have come out of it. And the other thing... Whilst it didn't get lost, it was still a big story. It would have been a much bigger story if it had been on a Monday where you still had 5 days to the semi-finals.
Yeah.
But with the finals there, it sort of absorbed some of the heat as well.
Oh, definitely. I think that's like from a tactical point of view, they've done a good job with that. Like all the fans, when a story comes out, the longer between that story and the next story, the longer gap between that, the more it stays in the limelight, the more it stays in social media, the more people send it around to each other. I mean, going straight away from that straight into the Storm big win over Roosters, Nelson suspension, like other big storylines that have just now mastered. Nathan Cleary hurt his shoulder. Like, people are now talking about other things, not about the Kevin Walters sacking. So they've done a good job.
Tough call. Some would say a rough call on Kevy. But I will say this, Cooper, is that one thing the Broncos board have done, they have been decisive. Right? They haven't tortured Kevy along. Like most other clubs would do that bullshit thing, which is where they go, oh, listen, we're backing him and we're going to give him the first 7 rounds of next year.
Yeah.
It never works.
No.
It never works. And what happens is after 7 rounds, the coach goes and another coach takes over, but it hasn't been his pre-season.
Yeah.
It hasn't been his idea of what the football side, how it plays, what it looks like, etc. So regardless if you like the decision or not, is the one thing I will hand to the Broncos board, they have been decisive. And they haven't dragged this on. They've just pulled the Band-Aid off.
Can I ask you that? The thing that always comes out of the Broncos is, particularly when we had Madge on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we spoke about, a team that he, he sort of spoke about wanting to get back into coaching, and he's been tossed up, and there's been articles tossing up Madge now saying that they've been talking to him. And the big response is that no one from New South Wales can coach the Broncos. Where does that shit come from? Because I don't understand. Because there was a time then when I was at Storm, they were talking about throwing a lot of big money at Craig Bellamy to coach him, has been an assistant there, but he's not.
Well, do you know the story with Craig? That they've courted Craig for a long time. They've always seen him viewed him as Wayne's natural successor. 2008, Bellyache had basically almost agreed, sat in front of the Broncos board. And one of the last things that was said is the reason why he stayed at Melbourne. One of the Broncos officials said to Craig, just letting you know that you won't have the same power that the old bloke who's leaving's had.
Oh, wow.
And Bellyache went, and he told me time ago, at that point, he said, I knew it was never going to be my club. Whereas Melbourne, it's his club.
It is his club, yeah. He doesn't get interrupted by other people trying to stop his decisions.
Give me 3 names.
For
who
what?
you think for the Broncos? Oh, just on back that. Yeah, we said about Broncos were the first team outside of New South Wales, first Queensland side into the competition in 1988, and there's always been that argy-bargy between Broncos and the power brokers and people down south. They were an extension of the Queensland State of Origin side. So I think at the moment that's what it's about. A little bit like, mate, we're going to get New South Wales, but it's 2024. You appoint the best person. If you aren't going to appoint Madge, who do you appoint?
I think the other bloke that is Josh Hannay, who's been circulating a head coaching job for a while.
Coops, the Broncos are just about arguably they're the biggest brand in the NRL.
They are.
It's a mega club. If you take that job, there's going to be a lot of pressure. I just don't think it's the job for someone who hasn't coached that level before.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. But I think that in terms of who they'd be interviewing for up there, I would assume he'd be probably the only other bloke that they're talking to.
They're saying Jason Demetriou as well, but
yeah, right. That's a lot of lot of pressure for a bloke that's just come out of a big club like South.
He's been sacked at South.
Yeah,
the Broncos don't appear to me to be a club that would go that way. I understand there was a Madge situation with West Tigers, but there was some. Madge has, whilst I don't think it damaged his reputation that much, he certainly rebuilt it above and beyond. For me, if I was to throw names up, this is my first, second, and third.
Go.
Michael Maguire.
Yep.
First. Michael Maguire second. Michael Maguire third.
Right.
He's the man. He's the man for it. Madge is a better coach now than when he took South to the title in 2014. He's a better coach. He had the West Tigers experience, which he spoke about here with us. He said he learnt so much from that experience. He then, went after he left there. He went to New Zealand. New Zealand 30, Australia 0 was a revelation there. Then took over State of Origin. A tough period. They just let Freddie go. There's plenty of stuff going on. 1-0 down the series. Held the ship together. Held his nerve. Wins the series 2-1. I just think he's the obvious man.
Yeah, and I will say that I think the experience in the Kiwi, doing things like Kiwis and State of Origin will be big for him because Madge has always been, from a player's point of view, he's always been the kind of coach who has been, quite analytical and very meticulous with how he's prepared, where I think those camps, it's probably unnatural for how he coaches, and he's had to learn to adapt to be, another side of coach like someone like a Wayne Bennett who's just tries to bring a squad together and make sure come game day they're all ready at 100%. I think that's going to help his actually day-to-day coaching.
That is spot on, Coops, because a lot of great club coaches who have been very analytical with their X's and O's have struggled at at rep level.
Yeah.
Because, and particularly in national level, because, oftentimes there were very good coaches who would take teams away overseas, Australian sides, but would still coach them like a club team. And you're coaching the best players in the world. That they're leaders too, mostly in their clubs, so you've got to give them rope. And Madge has been able to do that, find that balance. I heard Madge, I went to a luncheon a couple of weeks ago when me and Madge spoke. He got up and did the whole presentation, told people that how he pulled the New South Wales side together and everything. It was outstanding.
Really?
It was brilliant. Righto, the games.
First game?
Right, let's go through it. Let's go Melbourne Roosters.
Yeah.
You've been in Melbourne. You have become the lucky charm, staying at Harry Grant and Wishy's place. What are you calling yourself? The
Rabbit's Foot.
The Rabbit's Foot.
Yeah, right. No, I have. I actually have been calling myself the Rabbit. I was doing that after the game because there was a little bit. Those people who play footy will understand, or if you've got siblings or someone who's played in big games, even if it's local A-grade grand finals, on game day everyone's quite nervous and testy leading into big games. So they've got me there sort of hanging around the house as they're trying to prepare for a big game. And I remember thinking, if they get beat tonight, I know what Harry's like. He'll blame me for. Well, not blame me, but he'll think, we're not letting Coop stay with us again.
Having that bloke walking around the house stinking of booze in the morning. Yeah, that could have been a.
Yeah, so I left game day. I left early. I went down to the pub, caught up with a mate for a feed, and I was that tired because I had radio in the morning. So all I wanted to do was I was like, I want to go back for a nap, but I just know I shouldn't because if I go back. Yeah. So I was just out. I just basically went from pub to pub.
And to let people know that like the day of a game, particularly big game, you feel irritated and you feel on edge, like you're really on the bit. And so for someone to sort of casually walk in, hey boys, what's going on? I used to hate it.
Yeah.
When blokes would walk in to our dressing room sometimes, like just eating a pie. Hey boys, what's going on? We'd say, get that bloke out of here. It was, you just get.
I was very conscious of that. So I was trying to not step on anyone's toes. But I after the game, pressure relieved on me. I'd been out since about 11 a.m. sinking schooners, so you can imagine what it was like at 9 p.m. So I was walking through the dressing room, just yelling out, "On the Rabbit's Foot, on the Rabbit's Foot!" And everyone's family was like, "What is he talking about?
Who is this guy?"
Yeah, they knew who I was.
Yeah, Nelson, he got 4 weeks. He's going to fight it. I imagine he's going to fight it. But possibly missing the grand final, likely to miss the grand final. What was the reaction amongst the boys?
Yeah, I was actually up next to a couple of the owners watching the game when it happened. It was quite surreal because nobody actually knew what had happened. Like, they saw him get sent off, but when you look at the footage, it's not that incriminating in terms of on Nelson. Like
it was Lindsay's. When he was in a bad way.
Yeah,
so
it's seeing Lindsay in his bad head knock in his way. You go, oh, geez, he must have hit him in the head, but. I look at that incident and I know that we're trying to protect people's heads, CTE and things like that, but there's no intent from Nas. And there's been some times where there has been intent from Nas, and there's where he should have deserved 4 weeks.
Bali.
That was one of them. But this time I could not justify, and there's no way. It doesn't matter what player it is, the prior history of him in the NRL, even if it was Jared Rea-Hargraves, who is someone who gets hammered a lot in the judiciary room, I would not want to see someone miss a grand final over that.
That's pretty much the common consensus, and that's Jared. I think after the game said that. I thought he'd get 1 or 2 weeks. I thought he was going to have to fight a 1 or 2 week suspension.
Yeah,
but 4 weeks. They've hit him with the big stick.
Well, if that's a grade 3, what You know what I mean? What are some of the bad ones we've seen where people just launch their shoulders at people's heads? What's that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Grade 3 is the highest.
Maybe grade 4.
I think grade 3 is the highest, though.
Right. Should we bring in a grade 4 and grade 5? Pencil it down. Great idea. Overall, let's talk about the Storm performance. I thought they were awesome. Coop, the thing that stuck out for me is their mental toughness.
Yeah.
And 24-6 at halftime, Coops. And then Roosters come out after half-time, and apart from the first opening minutes of the game, enjoyed their best period. They actually got back to, I think it was 24-18.
Yeah.
Now, nearly every other side, Coop, probably outside of Penrith, at that point, they'd tighten up. They start to play nervous. They start to protect the lead. You'd see them start to slide a little bit. Melbourne met that challenge with, aggression and physicality, and just rolled through it and just rolled through the Roosters 48-18.
Yeah, you talk about their mental resilience. We just spoke about the Nelson incident. When you play the first 10 minutes, which is probably the hardest it's the hardest part of a finals game, that first 15 minutes, because everybody's fresh, everybody's energy is going into that. They're trying to wear each other down. To only come out of that 6-0, and they didn't seem like when Nelson came back on after they did a lot of defending, they were under the back foot a lot actually in that, and they only gave up the one try and the penalty conversion. But to come out of that 6-0 down, and then as soon as Nelson come back on, they went boom, scored a try straight away.
Well,
it was a good sign of their resilience. Actually, I remember Craig Bellamy, he used to say his favourite thing to watch as a coach in the box when he knows his team's on is when they make an error or something happens to them badly early in the first 10 minutes and they come out of it the other side not too damaged, like whether it be drop it off the kickoff and you defend your line a couple times, even though it takes a lot of gas out. From a mental point of view, he says he just really enjoys seeing his team doing that.
Well, look at the leaders in that side. And the key men, they've played so many big games. They've been through it all before. Experience, it's just a huge thing, Coop. That's the thing about Melbourne, Coops, and this why Nelson's going to be a massive loss in the grand final against Leota and Fisher Harris, is that when he came back on the field, you said like the meterage he makes. The moment that the Melbourne Storm, Coops, start to assert dominance in yardage and dominance in the play of the ball, mate, they just pile points on with that creative team. Perhaps Harry, Jerome and Munster, I don't think I've ever seen a better run threat in the spine, in the creative players. I've seen some good ones over there, like the Broncos in the 90s, Raiders in the 90s, 05 Tigers maybe, this Penrith team, but these blokes are a whole nother level. I've never seen a team just tear holes through the middle of the field like this spine.
They can beat you in a game in 20 minutes. Like there has been games where 20 minutes goes by and those four have just completely dominated teams. Like a couple of the tries they set up, there was one, both in the second half late. The best thing about them is they just know each other's games so well and they react. They train it during the week, but they react so well in certain situations. A couple of times, Harry Grant, there's one marker, Harry gets out. Munster, they had a play set. Munster just goes, bugger the play. I'm just going to punch a hole because I know Harry's going to attract defenders. Wow, Munster just punches outside C. Harry hits him. He goes straight over and scores. And then I don't know whether it was before or after, same thing. Tedesco is it first marker. Harry gets out, looks to the left. Paps sees Tedesco, chases him, reacts, knows that he's going to chase their running dummy half, drops underneath him. Paps goes under and scores. Like, it's such a skill. It's one thing to be freakishly fast or have a really good sidestep, but to have the education of knowing, you know, Harry Grant's biggest threat is his running game and what that does to the defence. So what I can do to react to benefit from that, it's so big.
You're spot on, Coop. Those players, it's the perfect mix of athleticism and knowledge, science.
Yeah.
Science of the game, the understanding of the science of the game with their athleticism, their speed, their toughness, all those things. We'll talk about the players individually. Jerome Hughes off a two-week preparation and being fresh, unstoppable. 3 tries, set one up. I've said, and you know the other thing that gets underestimated, we don't talk about Jerome, his toughness.
Yeah,
like mate, he cannot be discouraged. He is tough. He'll wear a shot to have a go. I said 2 weeks ago, and some people thought I said he is the greatest running halfback of all time. Bloke down the street goes, "Oh, please, that's a bit rich." I said, "Right, a smart ass. You give me one who's better." And he went, "Probably right."
Yeah,
and it confirmed the other night. I've seen some great running halfbacks, but this bloke is the best I've seen.
Oh, he's a freak. He's so good, and how he's built his game with his ball playing as well, just to complement his right foot and how good he is. Like, even that beautiful little try they set up where he just played out the back early to Paps. Paps uses his speed, makes Keary over chase. Meany drops under, and then Hughes is there to support on the inside. Like, there's just so many facets to their game.
Munster, he's had a tough year with injury, but it's preserved him. All of a sudden he's back. That lack of football, it's as fresh as I've seen him this time of the year. His last 2 performances have been outstanding. Yeah.
Mundog, like, you just know he's come into this finals and he's just so fresh. Like, he's been, I think, you know, like you said with injuries, but that saving himself from that Origin campaign, you can see, like, you can just see the energy and you can feel it in the group. Like, there's just not as much fatigue this time of the year. Like, you look at that Penrith side and they're playing outstanding footy, but you sense a lot of fatigue in that side.
Yep.
Like they look very kind of, not depleted, but they just look, it's been a big year for them. Whereas like, I can't remember the last time I've watched, Munn, Hughesy and Paps kind of rising going into finals as opposed to just trying to maintain consistent.
Might give Munster a little bit of food for thought going forward in his career, to extend the career, knock ref football on the head. I mean, he's done everything. I reckon, Coops, there's not many other... I'm thinking during my time in rugby league, I haven't seen too many better big game players than Munster. Like Origin, Test level, Grand Finals, Finals, he's just always on.
Yeah.
He's like his first ever Origin game, he got out there and got man of the match. They reckon it was the worst training session anyone's ever saw. Everyone's giving sideways glances like, is this bloke going to be okay? Gets out there, puts in a man of the match. I mean, he got man of the match when hungover.
Yeah, he was. He was blind like 3 days earlier. Yeah, I mean, I've still got like screen recordings on my phone, like from training sessions that we've done. Well, you have like all your training sessions are recorded when you're in an NRL club, and you have them on your phone app, and you can rewatch all the training sessions, every moment, every play. And I've still got just recordings on my phone where I've screen recorded it because Munster's done something, and I've just wanted to record it to ask him, like, what were you thinking there? Like, what have you done? Like, because good players in big games can kind of manipulate a defence, set them up, and then they get them with a beautiful play at the end. But Munster in big games manages to just do something, pull it out of nowhere, like, and you go, what did you see there? Why'd you do that? And he goes, I have no idea. Like, I just did it.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that even though he's learnt more and more about the science of the game, he's never let that Maverick style go? That's his game.
Yeah.
Pappenhausen, best game I've seen him play in 2 seasons, Coops.
Yeah.
And you see what speed does, Coop, how it troubles and disorganises a defence. Because one of the golden rules of defence is you don't slide till the ball goes past you. But because of Paps's extreme speed, they'll panicking and protecting the 3-on-2 and leaving the inside man exposed.
Yeah.
He was terrific.
Oh, mate, he's just such a good weapon to have at the back of shape. Like, it just, you look at a player like Dylan Edwards, who is a workhorse, who does all this and that. But, like, one thing you cannot coach against is having a bloke who is just so electric with his speed. And if you're a centre who's just made 10 tackles, you're 30 minutes into a game, and you've got Ryan Pappenhausen sprinting at you and your half's telling you to, like, go, I've got him, and you just don't. It puts so much doubt in between defenders of not wanting to turn out because he'll put you on show.
Well, there's not much we have to say about Harry Grant. We've spoken about him a lot. It's just been one of Craig Bellamy's best ever decisions, making him captain. You can see how much he's enjoying it. It's brought out the best in him. Just a quick one too, Jack Howarth. Congratulations to him. My God, hasn't he come on in the last month? Yeah,
mate. How he was bouncing around positions when I was down there. They didn't know whether he was a back rower. They played him at lock a bit.
What happened, Coop? Because I remember him getting signed there, this big strapping kid, and then sort of disappeared.
Yeah, he's the kind of player where it's taken a while for them to trust him. In fact, like you almost had to just throw him in there and just let him go, let him get confidence in it because. He's the kind of player that at training might do some silly things and then you go, oh, he's not ready because he's young. But you see this year, they've put him out there in the centres and he is just...
Oh, my God.
He's an absolute animal. He's that strong.
It's like Johnny Utah, doesn't he?
He is. He is. Mate, he is. He is. He's John Wick in Keanu Reeves, but like 15 kilos heavier. He's got one of the greatest bodies I've ever seen. Too.
Finally, let's talk about the Roosters quickly. Congratulations to Jared, JWH, and Luke Keary.
Yeah.
Luke's got a special sort of place with us here. We've had a lot to do with him. What a career he's had for not a big bloke, and Jared to be the most capped Rooster and play the way he does in the front row. Amazing achievement. Roosters, bottom line their season. I spoke a bit about this on the Sunday night show. Top 4 finish on the surface looks good, but when you look at that roster and the very fact they can't beat the best 2 teams says to me that it's a disappointing season.
Yeah.
Right? And Coop, for the most part, I've never been convinced about their football. And they oftentimes, and I said this on the show as well, I hear Trent talk about Roosters football or Roosters way. Everyone these days seems to have a way. Newcastle way. It ain't working. Beats middle-of-the-road teams. can beat some fellow final sides, but you want a style of football that you can win a comp with. And at the moment, that style of football is not going to win a competition because you can't beat the best two.
Look, the knock on the Roosters is always, apart from when Cooper Cronk was there, because he brought a little bit of that Melbourne style to facilitate a lot of their individuals, but the knock has always been, like when we've played against them, whether I was at Manly or at Storm and you're doing video on the Roosters, it's all about containing just individuals. And if you do a really good job on containing the individuals,
that's interesting.
The sides, there's not enough else to beat the good sides.
So you're saying basically the structure of the unit of the team and how they go about, you don't consider a threat.
It never has been when we've done video. And when you really break it down and watch, you go, geez, look at Tedesco up on the advantage line. Does this, beats him, puts him through a hole, and then Manu follows up. It's very much their game plan is get ruck speed, and then our individuals will take over.
Yeah, right. That makes sense because watching them when they play sequence-based football, I think they play too sideways and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the best stuff is just an individual going, bush, give us the ball.
Yeah, I think that's where they need to they need to go a little bit against that, rewire some of their attacking structure, but then still allow their individuals to do their thing within that structure. But you look at Melbourne, you don't see Melbourne's best stuff coming just from Paps getting up at the advantage line doing this and that, or Munster sometimes Munster does it, but it's all within a structure. It's all within a system of
principle.
Yeah. So I think that's where they need to improve it a little bit.
Talking about attack sequences, Penrith versus the Sharks. Off the top, first thing I want to talk about this game, Penrith's first try. It is one of the best pre-worked sequences that I have ever seen. So we talk about it. It's 2-2, and at that point, mate, Cronulla are enjoying a really strong period in the game. Penrith field position white have been under a fair bit of pressure. Third tackle, Nathan, 40-20. Now, when they take the ball after that coup, you go back and watch it, right? It is a phenomenal pre-worked sequence. Push the ball. They do nice little tight plays where it goes to Isaiah past the post. And then Nathan, you watch as Isaiah, and I think it's Isaiah, takes the ball past the far post, off a pass off Nathan. Watch Nathan. Nathan spins off his heel and runs back into the centre field in line with the black dot, right in the middle of the field between the posts, and he presents himself there early. Straight away you go, okay, it's on. They're going to call the ball, and you can see the Sharks players recognise that because he's presented himself early, and they go whoosh and they get on the front foot. The only problem for them is that Mitch Kenny, it was a pre-work, but goes the other way and tips Moses Leota under an inside ball. Suddenly, Sharks find themselves 10 metres up. Quickly, they've got to get back. Nathan then calls the ball. They're on their heels, throws that pass for Paul Alamotti, and it was beautiful to watch. It was perfect science. And that 2 minutes for me encapsulates Nathan Cleary's football.
Yeah, I really like the shape that they ran. They had the centre and the back row running inside and outside of Nico Hines. And it's a good play because it makes you... I've been in that position before where the system is you want to defend your inside shoulder. So you're scared of the inside man, but you feel isolated on the outside, as well as the centre feels isolated because the half feels isolated. So it isolates more than just... A lot of players in the NRL, they only isolate one person, whereas and they do it a lot. Jerome set up a try in the second half where they ran the same play except he kicked it and Liam Martin scored the last try. But it's a beautiful play because it isolates more than just one bloke and it makes them make decisions.
And Coop, I think they went for Talakai there. Talakai is a powerhouse. Sometimes, though, he can be caught short with his energy.
Yeah.
And if you look, they really tested Talakai's ability to shut the space with his energy, and he couldn't do it, couldn't get there. So everything about that try was just inch perfect. Sharks' performance, excuse me. If I'm a Sharks fan, I'm really proud of the way they played. Yeah. They took on the Premiers coming off a 2-week prep. And the final score, 26 points to 6, is no way indicative of what a tough, hard battle that was. 10-6 with 20 minutes to go, Coops. It was 10-6. They were right in the fight. Eventually, the pressure Penrith built and the brilliance of Nathan end up scoring points late. But I tip my hat to the Sharks. I thought it was a really strong performance.
I did. I loved the first 20 minutes was just so physical. And the best thing about it was they stayed around the ruck. Like, they really punished the Penrith ruck. They didn't try to push it sideways. They weren't trying to find Luai or Cleary early. They were just pushing around the ruck, getting up, playing the ball as quick as they could. And because Penrith get so many players in tackles, sometimes they can find, you can find the A and B either side getting back a little bit late, so you can find them again, and you can make their ruck make a couple of big tackles. So I think they did a really good job at just sort of punishing that middle. And then, I think the only knock on the Sharks was they didn't do it for long enough. I think after 20, 30 minutes, once fatigue set in, they thought, righto, now it's time for us to shift. And I think off the back of those shifts, slippery conditions, they made a couple of bad errors. I think they should have stuck to them. They should have just stayed around the middle a little bit longer.
I agree with you, Coop. Penrith can do that, though. They can force you to play sideways football because they're just so hard to score against.
Yeah.
Teams get frustrated and start to extend on their football and push it towards the sideline a little bit. Penrith, just the way, and you finish, you get an understanding of why they finish so fast and why they finish over the top of the teams, how they grind them down. We'll talk about the inside balls just in a second. But I looked at a number of sets, right, and it was almost carbon copy. The kick downfield, the Sharks. Kick return, Dylan Edwards, play 1. Play 2, To'o. Play 3, Taruva. Play 4, it's the first time we see a forward, Isaiah Yeo. Play 5, Dylan Edwards again. Get out of there. So the big blokes have been preserved, that energy. They can take their time getting back, knowing that the outside men, their back 4 or 5, are going to make the meters and bring the ball back to them.
Yeah,
that's a massive thing.
Oh, mate, for your energy as a front rower, you can tell why they're so effective in defence and why they're so fresh in defence, because sometimes you see them on a kick chase and you go, geez, they're just not getting tired. But the front rowers and the back rowers haven't had to do a heap of work because their back 5 helps them out so much, especially early in the game, that then they can just put all their energy into those first few plays in defence. Like, you see them just get numbers in and they just drive the wingers and the fullbacks back on those early plays. Like, it's such a big impact for your field position.
I want to talk about a little subtly here, Coop. And if there's young playmakers who listen to this, or up and coming young coaches, just think about this for a little bit, right? What you see a lot with Penrith with the inside balls, right? And a bloke said to me when we were chatting one day in a Fox, one of the commentators said, why don't they just let them go forward, nice and straight? Why, Nathan's handling the ball back to back to back, plays inside balls. And I said, why? I'll tell you why. When Nathan catches the ball, particularly with about 2 steps further on width, be defender, the moment he calls the football and the ball hits his hands, what's the defence do? They sit and they talk, and the defence line flexes out slightly to protect the outside threat. So the forwards don't move up at pace. They play a more steady defence line. He goes up, drifts across, picks the inside man up. Not only does he make more meterage, that it's just they don't get hit in a hard, aggressive tackle.
Yeah.
It's a real soft landing for a front row, for a middle forward to come around on an inside ball, and it's just it's again it's only a little thing, but it's clever football.
It's the name of the game. The name of the game, for particularly in the middle and for back rowers, is to try to get a one-on-one.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to get a one-on-one if you just catch it and just try to run forward, because
that's right.
Marker comes in, gets your legs, A and B will close, and then you get 3 into a tackle. But if you get a Nathan Cleary to get it out the back, make a back rower chase him, and he drops off a back rower or a front rower, it's easier to find just a one-on-one, somebody sliding. Like, you can skip across and try to just isolate one bloke.
It's interesting. When we had Nathan here at the start of the year, right, having a chat to him, and we said, what's one of the most important things when you start the game, Nathan? I said, I know when you're on because you run the ball. And he said, I always want to run the ball early. I want to get an aggressive frame of mind. The other thing that does, Coop, if you present yourself early in the contest as a serious run threat and you're going to take them on, then when you start to play that inside ball football and you start to go to the line and hitting your forwards short to get on one-on-one tackles, it works so much better.
Yeah.
Because you have presented yourself as a run threat that day.
Yeah. Well, people won't slide off you. Like the back row. If you're playing straight on a back row, they will hold, and they might even actually hit you as you pass it, and leave their half isolated, as opposed to halves that'll just sort of dish it early, like myself. Yeah. They used to just slide straight off me, and they get 2 or 3 into that tackle.
There's a moment in the game, Coop. One thing about Penrith, they designed their game plan around the team. Not just the team strength, the individual strengths. You very rarely see Penrith players playing outside their lane. But there was an interesting minute. There was an interesting play. Mitch Kenny, I'm trying to think of the time. It was, anyway, I think it was right at the back end of the first half, Coop. And they're on the attack, and all of a sudden Mitch, it might have been Nathan calling the ball one, Mitch scoops the ball up and decides to go to the right and do a bit of ball playing and to finesse the ball. And the ball hits the ground, all things go wrong. And you can see him chastise himself. Because as if to say, that's not my job. That's not my game. Right? And you don't see the Penrith players do that much. I reckon it's one he'll look back at and just go, mate, Mitch, get back to what you do well. Yeah,
they do. You can tell in that system, they all know. There's not a lot of going outside of the system with those blokes, particularly a bloke like Mitch who... he knows his strengths inside and out. Yeah. I think I know the one is that when he got out and tried to throw it to Liam Martin, and Liam Martin dropped it?
Yes.
Yeah, and Liam Martin had a big crack at him.
Right, just finally to say this I just can't wait. We're going to preview the grand final soon, but Coops, like having Nathan at the start of the year, him going in depth about how that young Penrith side and that young Penrith squad learnt how to win grand finals, learnt how to be tough by getting beat by Melbourne.
Yeah.
They said, we played like boys, they played like men, they bullied us. We said we'll never be bullied by any side again. Well, here we go. We've come full circle.
Yeah, it's a cool moment that we're going to see on this weekend. Because
it's good to be alive.
It is. What a great day to be alive for rugby league supporters, because Cameron Smith was the skipper of that side. A lot of leaders out of that Melbourne side. A lot of the young guys, perhaps Ryan Pappenhausen actually got Clive Churchill in that game. Now they're the leaders. Harry came back from the Tigers. The blokes that were the young sort of scallywags are now the leaders of that Storm side. And that moment 4 years ago that really lit the fire in this Penrith side, particularly Nathan Cleary, Jerome Luai. Now it's Melbourne's time to, I guess, get their revenge, because they've been held out of three of the last few grand finals by facing Penrith in a prelim or a semi-final.
The rabbit foot left, and what happened, mate? It just finally
might have to stay at the team's hotel this week.
I just want to do a final word. We spoke about the left centre of Jack Howarth at Melbourne playing so good. Well done to Paul Alamotti, who's gone to Penrith, was allowed to go by the Bulldogs, found a home. Playing great football. Good on him.
Some of his kick chase efforts, Jesus
terrific,
Christ.
Terrific.
Scary.
Righto, Coops. Good on you, mate. Now, just letting people know this week, we're going to have we'll have the preview for the grand final, but also Matty's rugby or grand final quiz. 50 questions I'm going to give people, and I'm going to lay down the challenge. If you can get between 40 and 50, you are a rugby league savant. Righto.
That's
Look
cool.
out for that.
Well done.
Righto.
See you, Matthew.